Hello all you hardcores out there, how are you doing? It's Russ here from Porky's Corner. The biggest going sport. I say the things on here that nobody dares say. Isn't that right? Terry. What do you think to Terry's take in this episode? Let me know in the comments section. Is Terry right? Now Terry's got a massive ego. He says he don't read comments, but I think he does. So let me know if you think he's right. Okie dokie. Go on, peace out. Pop, pop, bang!
There you go. See? Mate, I've evolved. Andy, I've evolved, man. I learned from you. I took notes, copious amounts
I love
of
the
notes.
fact that whenever I did any hand actions to illustrate, let's talk about this off air, Martin would immediately draw attention to the fact, Andy, why are you waving your hands in front of you? Something like that. We've got to the point now where Terry's like ready to go, 3, 2, 1, go, and I'm like, yes, Terry. Martin's said nothing.
No, that's because we're a professional outfit now, a few years away.
We are.
We're veterans.
We've been on hardcore professionalisation podcast courses just to get ourselves up to speed.
We've been on. I've been locked away in Dubai learning about it.
With the hope of just slowly taking over, but not officially taking over. Just
I heard there's a
opening
gap.
your eyes.
I heard there's a gap coming. Rick Glazer told me.
And welcome
you
to the
blocked me.
Boxing Podcast with me, Andy White, and with me today, Martin Theobald.
Oh, is this how we're doing it? Is this how we're doing it?
Well, might as well.
This is Terry's 300th podcast. Terry's 300th podcast. 400th.
Yeah.
Look at 300. Christ, 400. Congratulations,
100
Terry.
before that, 100 before Beyond Boxing.
Congratulations, Terry. That's unreal.
Yeah. Mate, we're hitting our 10-year anniversary as well, but we can't be more than 3 weeks away from that.
Oh my God!
And I can't believe you bought a new T-shirt to celebrate.
Mate, listen. Told you I stay loyal.
Because this is an audio podcast, people won't see Terry is sat in an MTK Marbella T-shirt.
Do you know
Company
what?
that was
I might leak the
dissolved.
video. Just leak the video. So, yeah, look.
A company that was dissolved in May 2022. So the next hour or so is going to be very fun.
Listen. It may be dead to company's house, but it lives on in me. And the thing is, it's weird, right? Because when it comes to Kinahan and all of that stuff, the Irish feel really strongly about it. And I kind of understand that because it's a different problem in Ireland than it is over here. We just kind of know him as a boxing guy. Do you know what I mean? So we kind of look at it from a different lens. And, you know, there's the part of it which is he helped boxers get paid. But the other lens is also how dirty is boxing that we just allowed this guy to walk in? It was like, yeah, all right. Oh, yeah, you allegedly shot how many people? We all have days like that, Daniel. Don't worry, we've all been there, mate. We've all been there.
I want to meet that one person because it can't be more than them that ever thought to themselves, boxing's a clean sport. Daniel Kinahan will never get a foothold in this sport, no matter how much money he brings to the table.
I
Do you
think
ever wonder if Kinahan had a national record of achievement?
one of those
And what
red
was it?
folders.
Yeah, the red fold, and in it's like a scout badge.
Before we do crack on, and I'm sure we'll cover that topic at some point, like what you just said, Terry, sort of the damage and destruction caused by the impact of the drugs on the streets of Ireland and the issues that it's caused for people, there is a serious one that has been neglected by people in boxing. I've got a list of people that I'm going to name check later on that have name checked Daniel Kinahan in the past. So all I'm doing is just repeating their sycophant approach to cartel leaders. But those impacts of the cartel on the streets, they're serious. And boxing is such a disgusting sport in places where people just turned a blind eye to that, took the money because it was a good contract for me or whatever it may be. Like, everything we're about to say, I preface it by I appreciate none of it is funny in that sense. None of it is amusing. There's like people's lives are fucked as a result of what's happened.
What is funny about all of this is not the Daniel Kinahan side, because you wouldn't really want, he's not a guy you want to make fun of. Let's just be honest, and Martin's explained why. It's the behavior of people in boxing, where used car salesmen from Derby suddenly got a bit more air in their chest. Do you know what I mean? Like people, videographers suddenly started puffing their chest out, threatening to cave people's faces in because they spent a couple of days in Dubai. Those are the people we are going to make fun of, because those are the clowns in this whole circus.
100%.
Daniel Kinahan is a guy who will get what's coming to him if he's guilty. But these other guys, some of them have probably told some stories to undercovers, put your hands up if you did. But it's that kind of behavior that was really embarrassing.
Whatever Kinahan has or hasn't done doesn't affect me. Whatever, like the courts will handle that. That's fine. I pray that if they find him guilty and they go and find out where the money has gone through and they investigate boxing, I pray those people get absolutely ripped to pieces as a result of it, of which there was a call from the Irish police about 4 years ago they did online that was attended by US police, Italian police, Dubai police, and they talked about boxing being a key part of the cartel and that boxing should be very careful about handling things with anyone associated to it, because your books can essentially be looked into. So, you know what? I hope they do get looked into over time. But as you say, let's kick it off because what's happened is, it's the equivalent of doping. Like doping in boxing, we've talked about it for years. You can dope and you can put things into your body that give you a short-term benefit, and then longer term, you get that residual benefit that might last for a few years out of it. That's essentially what's happened. IFL got that financial benefit. I'm not saying they didn't have good talent in the first place. Fair play to Coogan. He spotted an opportunity, but that got boosted and accelerated through means of being sponsored by MTK, and we know where that comes from. Coogan would not be in the position that he's in now without financial doping from a cartel. Similarly, Sam Jones. There's two off my list already. As you say, used car salesman from Derby. These are people that are on record of having praised Daniel Kinahan for his work, praised him for his work in boxing. Like, what a mental sport. What a mental sport.
Can you imagine finding a video from like 1937, right? And it's Neville Chamberlain going, he said Adolf, yeah? Not bad on the left wing. You got to just ping him with the diagonals and straight in over the fullback. Amazing footballer. Would have him in my team all day. He's annexing countries. No, forget that. Why are you talking about important stuff? He's great down the left wing. He's given me more assists this season than anyone else. Love Adolf. Love him. If I was better looking, I'd get his moustache. That's the equivalent of what these guys are doing. It's just going, what, drugs, killing? Killing at a boxing weigh-in? Why are you still talking about that? That's a long time ago.
You can say he's annexed the country, but he's not been convicted of it yet.
Yeah.
Nobody's convicted.
Americans say he's done it. He hasn't done it.
Insane. But we'll weave that conversation through, I'm sure.
No, 100%. But I think with this being 400, what I wanted to do was kind of just look back on the 10 years we've been doing this. And the fact that the more boxing's changed, the more it's stayed exactly the same, right? Because most of the stuff that we were talking about then, we can legitimately recycle now and say, yeah, wouldn't it be really good to see Tyson Fury fight Anthony Joshua? Imagine a whole decade later, all the money that's been made in boxing, and we're still there going, I wonder what would happen if Joshua fought Fury.
Or Wilder.
Yeah. And it validates our point, and we think we said this right at the beginning. Joshua was a GCSE business studies project. How much money can we make from boxing without putting this guy in harm's way? And now, who's to know that the guy was scared of his own shadow? That's the thing. Who's to know? Look at Andy. Andy's there like, yeah. You can speak about this one, Andy, because you were there.
Well,
When
You were the
Joshua was
advocate.
I've kind of zoned out because I don't really feel like I have anything to add most of the time. You guys speaking, guys go into such depth of things. I'm like, I have no idea. I've so tuned out of boxing completely.
But that's the most important perspective, right? Because when we first started, you were elbow deep into it. And you were like, why isn't this happening? Why isn't that happening? And the longer that these things didn't happen, the less interest you've had in the sport.
I'm gutted.
To the point where you've gone and got married and had a family.
I mean, those don't feel completely intrinsically linked, but I do feel I am gutted. I am gutted that it's turned me off so much because it was, an aspect of sporting viewership that I actually valued, to the degree that we obviously had the podcast going, and I know it wasn't that the pod didn't crumble because of boxing, but it certainly felt that there was no desire to revive it based on the sport, if you like, and yeah, it affected sort of the events we would go to, the live events that we would prioritise going to. I don't think there is a boxing matchup now that I would go to. I mean, I talked about it with Martin the other day. It was like, how are we looking at the potential Fury and AJ matchup? And it was just like, no, not interested. And yeah, that's how it feels at the moment. There's nothing interests me to the degree that I want to know actually, like how big the sport is compared to what it was in 2017. Like, it feels like we've passed 9 years and it feels minuscule to me by comparison. Is that true? I don't know. Is there more money in it? Is there less money in it?
If you look at the headlines, you'd think it was bigger. Netflix are involved, right? We've got our kind of own boxing-specific channel, DAZN. We've filled out Tottenham Hotspur stadiums more times than Tottenham have. We've done Wembley again. We've done Wembley numerous times, right? We've taken boxing to Saudi Arabia and made people millionaires many times over. So that way you look at it and go, oh my God, what other sports grown like that? And then I see guys like Steve Goodwin leaving the sport and I go, that's a more important measure of where boxing is.
Yeah.
When Steve leaves and his accumulated knowledge, his network, his experience just goes, there isn't anyone that can fill that. So that kind of just completely disappears off the map. So now there's no third, fourth, fifth, sixth way into the sport because Steve's gone. And Johnny, whatever his name, top tier, he'll be gone soon. Steve Wood will be gone soon. Errol Johnson will be gone soon. And, we don't have anyone in Dubai who just wants to put throwaway shows on in the Brentwood Centre for no real reason other than he loves the sport. So we're stuck.
I think when you go back, that question of has it grown? I think you've ended up in a situation where there are, if you took away the stars of the generation from when we started recording 10 years ago, and the stars that were building at that point, of Fury, of Joshua, Eubank, they're all at the tail end of what they're doing today. Chisora's still somehow hanging around there. Would you call him a star? Not really, not A-list. But they're all at the tail end. And you're now really like milking that cow dry horribly. Like the udders are bleeding at this point.
Is it that meme where the bloke walks in and goes, "Morning, sunshine," and the cow is just
yeah, and the cow's like, "No." Yeah, it's at that point because, like, let's be honest, does Joshua probably want to fight again? None of us know, but everything he's been through over the last 6 months or whatever the age he's at, the realistic achievements that he's got left in his career, nobody could blame him for walking away. Is he able to? We don't know. Contractually, is he able to? We don't know. But once those names go, which realistically could all happen over the next 12, 18 months, what's next in British boxing? There is nothing. So when you talk about is it bigger, no, I think we're at stasis. We haven't progressed it. It's sort of static to the point of those same names have been recycled for 10 years without, and we said this a while back, you can build those superstars and you can milk those superstars, and they're still milking them now, but you haven't built anything underneath them in the UK. Overseas, perhaps, but does anyone give a fuck about overseas in the UK? Let's be honest. Like, is anyone really, outside of Tockers on Twitter? Fair play to him. He's up doing every show at like 2 a.m. in the morning, watching some Paraguayan geezer on a DAZN undercard that none of us care about. But in the real world, where we've got friends, none of us are doing that. And if you look at the UK boxing scene, Andy, you're always like a benchmark of the casual. I know you're beyond casual now. I think I'm your casual. I've taken your place in that because I'm not going to small hall shows now. I barely even watch like the Matchroom ones. But if you see what's coming through, we've got Dalton Smith up in Sheffield, decent fighter, brilliant win over in America, but he's not star power yet. And there's nobody. If you take away Fury, you take away Joshua, you've got Dubois and Wardley, two Brits fighting for a heavyweight title. That's not a Wembley. You needed AJ to make Wembley Dubois. Dubois Wardley is a co-op arena fight. You need AJ, you need Fury. Once those names aren't there, we're screwed. We're screwed. Like, as having it as a top tier sport. It's not to say that there's no talent underneath, because maybe there is, but that talent hasn't been built.
Nurtured.
There isn't star power coming with it.
For context, Andy, think about this. Netflix was sat there going, how can we drive subscriber growth through boxing? And they went and got Mayweather and Pacquiao and said, do you want to do this? So there's a whole list of boxers.
50 years old!
And they've just gone back in time. They've just gone, no, let's just go back to what we know was good. Do you know what I mean? That's how bad it is right now. Is that they've gone, look, we need something that's going to move the needle. Mayweather, Pacquiao will move the needle. And I think I've said for a long time, it's still the biggest fight in boxing.
Yeah.
Because they're the last era of having to prove yourself in the ring. Not like Fury and Joshua. How many like cartoon characters can these guys fight? Joshua fought Ngannou, fought Jake Paul, and he's going to fight Aspinall at some point, right? These are all just circus acts, as far as I'm concerned. Do you know what I mean? It's all circus.
But I would genuinely say, if you took a boxing fan in the UK, and I'd still classify myself as a boxing fan, even if it's to hate watch 99% of it, I'm still a boxing fan. If you ask boxing fans to name the world champions in the classic weight divisions, say featherweight, lightweight, welterweight, middleweight, even super middleweight, light heavyweight, heavyweight, I couldn't name you the world champions at featherweight, at lightweight. I couldn't name them at welter, middle. I'm struggling with all of them. I could probably name you one of them, but I couldn't name you all four.
And you couldn't name the British champions in those weights either.
Oh, no. The only one I could name you is George Liddard, because I quite like George Liddard, but he didn't look good against Tyler Denny the other day.
No. And also, we might be ranked. We genuinely might be ranked. They've just run out of boxers, so our podcasters are next. So we might be top 15 somewhere.
But yeah, no, I just think there's a lethargy about the sport. And that's in one of the things I sort of messaged you guys about earlier was when we were talking about, I'm sure we mentioned it at some point, having everything under one umbrella organisation, so you don't have these promoters sat sort of over there, and you can't get fights made because of different channels, the frustration that will cause. The Zone has basically solved that. You've still got the promotional bodies, but now you've got, the talent, and I use the word talent very loosely, but working across the different platforms. Adam Smith commentates on Frank Warren as he does on Eddie Hearn. You've got Oladipo working across it. You've got all of these different commentators, Frampton, etc., working across these different or against different promoters, but on the same platform. You've now got the ability to make into promotional fights, and yet it hasn't solved the problem that we sort of highlighted of you might get people fighting each other, but does anyone care now?
I don't really know.
We don't get the fights we want.
I don't really know, with all this money flying around, why somebody didn't come up with, like, from the ground upwards, a UFC version of boxing. Or did I miss something?
Oh,
Have you heard of Zuffer?
Say again?
No. Have you heard of Zuffer?
No.
Wow. That shows the impact it's made us. And this is interesting, actually, to be fair, because Sky Sports have teamed up with Zuffer. So Sky Sports are the ones that can penetrate any sports fan to some degree. You've watched Arsenal Man City this afternoon on Sky Sports. You get notifications on your phone about Sky Sports stuff. But you've not heard of Zuffer. And Zuffer are then, or part of their new boxing provision. So Zuffer is headed up by Dana White, the head of the UFC. They signed Conor Benn. They signed Jai Opetaia. They signed Chris Billam-Smith. Under the provision that they're going to get rid of the sanctioning belts of the WBA, the WBC, etc., and have the, what's it called, Terry? Zuffer? I'm assuming the Zuffer belt.
Yeah, it looks terrible.
Yeah, it's a shitty, like Toys R Us looking plastic thing.
It's what you take to like a wrestling convention.
Oh, we know someone
It's what
like
we
that.
take on your stag do. It's what we take on your stag do, White.
Hey, that was...
Oh, by the way, on the side note, Andy, when are you up for parole?
My judge gone AWOL, so I think I'm all right.
No, your judge will be back. He's just dealing with Kinahan at the moment.
But yeah, the fact that you don't know who Zuffer Boxing are is indicative of the fact that they haven't penetrated boxing, and that Sky Sports are struggling to penetrate a more casual sports fan. Because they ought to be able to. They ought to have all the cookies on your phone that tell them that you've looked at boxing stuff in the past, so they should be able to push it to you. But they haven't.
Wait, think how sad this is, right? Sky basically kick Boxer off and go, like, basically, we've all been there. You've dated someone for about four months and you've gone, I'll never get those months back, right? And Sky just sat there with like buyer's remorse going, Jesus, how did we get that so wrong? And so they've bypassed everyone. Dennis Hobson swiped left, Steve Goodwin swiped left, Steve Wood swiped left, whoever that guy in Scotland is, Kinnock swiped left, remnants of MTK swiped left. We're just going to go with a YouTuber who's basically pimping out women's boxing and an MMA guy who's basically trying to moneyball the detritus of boxing at the moment. That's what Sky have gone with. The biggest platform in British boxing, and it still is, has gone, we're not going to touch mainstream UK boxing. Maybe ever again. That's how bad it's got, Andy, in the last 10 years. That Sky just like, it's not worth it for us.
And Zuffer Boxing are the ones that Turkey is going to put his money into. And I don't know, does that mean he's not going to put it into anyone else and it's only going to go to Zuffer? Or are others going to get the crumbs off the table, but Zuffer are going to be the sort of main beneficiary? I don't know.
Expect Zuffer to tank pretty quickly.
Do you reckon?
Yeah.
Well, remember, he's got to go with the PowerPoint presentation. We all look at him as a happy-go-lucky guy in boxing, but he has to go to Riyadh with the PowerPoint presentation, all 115 slides of it, and go, mate, we just gave you like £500 million. What's happened? Yeah, Tyson Fury's doing a reality show. Anthony Joshua refuses to pay for drivers. Then there's just loads of weirdness in the middle. We're just overpaying. Okay, but what's this doing for our country? I don't know. People think I kill people. They think I kill Khashoggi. Maybe I'm not the right guy to be leading. You can imagine in Riyadh they're having a different conversation than we would have.
I think I killed
And so he's got to. This is what they tune in for. But these are the allegations that float around. So he has to justify why he's doing what he's doing. And he spent a lot of money on old rope, essentially. And now they're like, well, you know that they're bombing us over there, right? Like the oil ain't what it used to be 2-3 years ago. We had to cut this NEOM down from 170 kilometers to 170 meters. Yeah? Like the Winter Olympics have left. We're not doing those anymore. And we might not do the World Cup. There's no way Turki Al Sheikh can just make it rain. Do you know what I mean? He can't just make it rain in boxing anymore because the Saudis are like, we're probably at a 70 or 80 billion deficit, you know, just based on what's happening with oil prices and volumes. It's crazy.
It's only last week where Live Golf were talking about reining it all in at the end of this season. As well as if you look at the football in Saudi, they're sort of pulling all the money out of that, or not all of, but they're pulling substantial amounts of money out of it. The Live Golf, so the Neon City, so much of it. So it doesn't make sense if boxing isn't going to create a return on the investment. Then I don't see how or why you would keep doing it. 15 million for Conor Benn to fight Regis Prograis and not put a dent in a damaged Regis Prograis. Like Conor Benn is not the same man he used to be.
This is what happens when you take eggs out your diet, mate. We all had that. You know, I was on 3 omelets a day and I was lifting cars for fun. Stop taking them. Look at the state of me.
Yeah, I mean, it's wild.
It looks like he's going to come out.
Sauerland brothers,
he's addicted to his Zempic.
I'm just going to randomly shout out Daniel Kinahan lovers, by the way. Sauerland brothers. There you go. Carry on.
Oh, do you know what? Who brought up the YouTube interview where Calla goes on a full glass of water on the bedside table, tongue out, full glaze?
Oh, he throated Kinahan in that interview. Like, throated him. But there's a whole thread. There's various threads knocking about on Twitter of these moments where people... And I don't know if they're going to come out in time and like Bob Arum did. Bob Arum who called Daniel Kinahan the captain.
Jesus Christ.
But then he came out later on and said, oh, no, I denounce everything. And he felt bullied into it, was it? I think that was his term. I might be wrong. Which, don't get me wrong, it's maybe understandable. But, these are just people who publicly went on record, did interviews. I'm just going to shout them out during the course of this episode. Sauerland brothers. Tick.
Full glaze. Embarrassing. Because it was like, yeah, look, I could talk so much about what Daniel's done for boxing, but I want to talk about him and I, like, outside of boxing. And I'm there going, like, mate, you're the guy that's known for twitching and your jaw going crazy, and that's what you want to talk about. Like, you're not really giving me confidence that Daniel was just a boxing guy, you know?
When he says him and I outside of boxing, does he mean Daniel pulled up in like a black BMW, wound down the window, took 50 quid through it and handed him a bag?
Imagine if he did.
Just Kinahan doing the round.
just 2,000 dirhams, and he's just there like, I want to go back to being a teenager again.
Low manpower.
Man doing county line.
There's a lot of sickness.
County line
There's a lot of sickness and annual leave going on, so I've got to do the rounds.
HR have told me that I've got to go and experience day in the life of stuff.
Secret boss.
But here's the thing, though. This is what people don't understand. So Cal has done all of this. Say, I'm really close to Daniel Kinahan. I'm this, I'm that. The dude is now the frontman for Misfits Pro.
Yep.
And no one's gone, hold on. Cal, like, you might want to come in and talk to us here because we need to know, is there some contagion, some risk here?
Yeah, but I mean, over the course of the weekend, I'm not going to mention any promotional companies at all, but fair play to them for putting shows on, because that Kinahan stuff came out Friday night. There are people that are front line within some of those promotional companies that have very, very, very close links to the background of Daniel Kinahan that I'm sure would have been sat there on Friday or Saturday night thinking, fuck, I could be at home doing my shredding right now, which I need to do. I could do it being anywhere but in Scotland. Yeah, like that can't have been an easy weekend for some people in boxing.
Phone's getting thrown in the fire.
He's doing my fucking head in.
The best one, you're saying about that Sauerland interview. Have you watched back the Spencer Fearon one?
Oh, which one? The Godfather to my daughters?
Oh, my family knows his family. Here we go.
What the guys done around the world, in Africa, in the Middle East, in his home country of Ireland, in the UK. This is what I bear witness to, right?
He bore witness.
So, I don't want to hear anything of propaganda. He's a beautiful human being. It's propaganda. If this man had a criminal record and everything else, then I can sit down and say, ooh, his family know my family, right? He knows my children. I know his.
He's a beautiful human being. Cheers, Spence.
But on the other hand, he did help revive Jay Spades. Like, we'd all forgotten who Jay Spades was. And it's like, listen, we've got some budget for you to do a quick single if you fancy it. He was like, yeah.
Oh, that was a great rap record. What a time. Just insane. Insane.
I miss that time in boxing. That era I genuinely miss.
Yeah.
We're big enough to launder money as a sport, but no one's really looking at us from a scrutiny perspective. So we can kind of get away with a lot, right? But now that we're a bit more corporate, everyone's now looking into it now, and everyone's going back in the archives, and you can now suddenly be like, well, where did the Sam Jones guy come from? Did he have a drug debt? I'm just asking a question. Did he have a drug debt that someone said, listen, you can pay back this 20 grand, or you can work for us? And he's going, yeah, I'll work for anybody.
But we were right in that like eye of the hurricane of it. And I don't think until you get out of it, you can appreciate how utterly insane it is that it was allowed to happen.
Think about it, right? I've got 50 key that I need to get rid of. I just sell it for whatever. These are the times I need Porky because he's great with numbers. But I just sell it for, I'm just going to pick a random number. I'm going to say, look, 50k, I sell it for 2 million quid. I've now got to find a way of making 2 million quid appear lawful, sensible. So I'm all right. This 2 million I've got in cash. I'm just going to put shows on because the reality is, even if I lose 400 grand on all those shows, I'm still up in real terms in terms of what I invested and what I take back. So when people say, why were there so many shows happening once upon a time when it didn't look like the economics were stacking up, it was because they never needed to make a profit. If they broke even, that was a huge win. But as long as the losses were acceptable and that money could be in the system as clean money, which it turned out, it was an easy hustle. I'm not saying that's what they did, but it's been done elsewhere. Yeah? And so when people say, oh, he could have been involved in boxing, boxing is perfect because the model of boxing is thousands of boxers go out and sell tickets. And it's mostly cash, hand to hand. So you can always justify going into the bank with 100 grand of cash. Look, I just did a show on Saturday night. Here's a proof. Here are our takings. Bang. It goes in and no one bats an eyelid. Or you can go, well, we came up with this thing. Basically just took water out of a tap, put an Alka-Seltzer in it and put it in a can and called it wow. Or sometimes if it's a gold can, we call it drip. Right?
Wow. I can't believe you'd say that. Wow.
Tap water in a can. Why did you never think of that?
You need to hydrate yourself.
Wow. but all of these things.
They've got wow hydrate. They had an office over in Dubai.
Well, just in case there's a water shortage.
Why were so many people from boxing in Dubai when the Iran war kicked off? The Sauerland brothers were over there. Charlie Parsons was over. Why were so many people from boxing in Dubai? Legitimate question. What's going on in Dubai? There was no boxing going on at the time. What were
you
people
never had an all-hands meeting, Martin?
Having a town hall.
Yeah. Literally, you know what? Step 28, it starts getting a bit mad. Everyone just gets a notification. All-hands meeting, Dubai, Tuesday. And you're like, shit. I'm sure Coogan swam there. You know what I mean? Like, you just it's not worth not showing up, right?
There was, genuinely, there was no boxing in Dubai at that time. And when those missiles started going in on Iran, you had various people from boxing, tweeting stuff out about, oh, it's not safe. I need to get back to the UK. Why were you in Dubai?
Oh, then they got told, no, you better tell them it's safe.
I don't need the tourist.
You think you're in London? You think you can speak for yourself here? You think you can have opinions here? You think you can tell the truth in this country where we give you no taxes? You better get out there and sell some property and tell people this is perfectly safe. Go outside and do it. Don't do it from the safety of your own flat. Go outside and do it right in the middle, right by JVC. And make sure you're right out there by the marina and tell people it's safe.
All the people investigating boxing, the Dubai Tourist Board was not on my bingo card.
Yeah, they were just there like, how dare you? We let Jazza Dickens box here. We let Rocky Fielding come here. What, you're going to turn your backs on us and tell people it's unsafe here? You're going to tell people, you're going to tell lies and say that missiles are landing here? Don't worry about the craters. You know what I mean? So listen, you better tell them. People need to get their asses out here now.
Mauricio Suleiman, he can have a special Daniel Kinahan mention. He had a photo taken with him, and then claimed he didn't know who he was. Love it. Didn't know who he was.
Boxing's ability to literally suck on the wood of anyone with money. And no one even does any due diligence. Like in football, I can't just go and buy Sheffield Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
Because they'll be like, mate, who are you? How did you get your money? You got to show paperwork, right?
Well, who were the group that tried to buy Everton and it dragged on? Eventually, the Premier League said no. They failed the fit and proper person.
Was it 777?
Yes. And then they're now being investigated, done. I can't remember. I haven't looked into the details. But there was a barrier that said, no, there's something not right about this. So they got turned away. And now it turns out they were right to turn them away.
Can you imagine that in boxing? You go, guys, MTK, yeah, we don't mind letting you into boxing, but where's all this money coming from?
Do you know what? The interesting one for me will be the board. And I hope they get investigated so badly. In that at some point, they have handled money through purse fees, through taxes, through money in, money out, paying out their staff. That is affected by this. 100% they have. And what was their due diligence as the governing body of the United Kingdom boxing? Where was their due diligence in checking where that money came from? Because there were enough stories that they should have been aware. And I've sat with members of the British Boxing Board of Control in different roles that are fully aware. They knew certain individuals. And they handled that money and they allowed it to happen. And then I think they were probably too scared to do anything about it. By the time that money was routed through it, what can you do?
Can you imagine you get a phone call? There's a lady on the phone. It's like, listen, Robert Smith, just mind your own business. Yeah, they're the money coming. Yeah, who are you? Yeah, my name's Sonia. All right, Sonia, do you box? No, I just run sunbed shops, man. Like, stop asking questions, Robert.
Fake bake.
Yeah. It's like, yeah. So, and you run the whole thing? Yeah, I do. So this MTK money's from people just tanning themselves. Robert, don't make me say it again, Robert. Stop asking questions. Yeah, just let these things happen, okay? Robert's just hung up and gone, can I get a free sunbed? No, you can't get a free sunbed, no. What's happened to Sonia McCumper?
I don't know, man. Fake news. Fake news.
I missed that. Do you remember the thingy?
Mate, I tweeted it out the other day. I got ChatGPT to recreate it and put it over my my profile. I'm going to make it my profile picture right now on Twitter.
But that Fury, Isaac Lowe and Ben Davison one.
Oh, that's outrageously good. Fair news. There we go.
I just
use that. Right. There you go, Terry. Check my... I'm going to put it as my hashtag new profile pic. It might take a minute.
Mate, it's
we lost
so
Andy,
crazy.
by the way. Andy's having a mare with his new dog.
Yeah,
there you go. Check out the new profile pic.
Some people just aren't dog people. Like, how many mistakes do you have to make? Oh, he's going to have to talk to them now, isn't he? Oh, they got plenty of questions for him. Woo. Woo.
But let's go back to your original point about the 10 years. The 10 years that we've been doing this, talking about this. What's really changed? The deterioration, as I say, the lack of being able to build new stars. Yeah. Who would you say are the next two pay-per-view stars? And I know pay-per-view's allegedly dead and then back and then dead again. If you get DAZN Super Ultra Premium Ultra, who would you say are the next 2-3 people? It's Halma?
We say it's Halma, and I can believe it's Halma. But I also hear stuff that tells me that maybe there's some vulnerabilities that have been revealed in the shadows. So everyone's just said, right, put the brakes on this one for now. We need to, be very careful. Read into that what you will. But maybe there was another heavyweight that fought recently that no one had known about before, but kind of made his big thing debut as a heavyweight. Maybe he did some damage. I was talking. But they saw something and they said, we might not want to rush him too much just yet, Let's let some of these punches disappear first and then we can bring him through. So you put him on there.
Potentially.
Adam Azim, I put on there.
But Adam Azim, like, his career has hit the brakes. And I know there was the injury that stopped him having a decent fight last time out. But if you're going to stay with boxer, and it seems like Spencer Brown, I don't know what Spencer Brown's role is, but other than legacy man. But I don't know.
Dubai tour guide?
I don't know what his role is. Really, like, he was the Fury fight promoter. I don't know why, but he's fallen out with boxer by the sounds of it. So where do the opportunities? Bacoli, Christ. I don't know where the opportunity for a boxer is going to come from.
Yeah, I can see Adam Azim just flipping over to Matchroom.
Yeah, it'd be logical, right?
Yeah. Look, I like Ben Shalom, right? I like Ben because he's had a go. Now, whether he got there by graft, whether he got there because someone said, listen, I got a few quid that needs to do a magic trick. I don't know. I'm not here to judge. But you meet those people in life who are just determined to not learn. Right? They're just like, I know what you're telling me is right, but I'm going to do it my own way. Right? And mate, that's not going to work. Oh, yeah, it didn't work for you. Yeah, okay. Ben strikes me as that sort of guy because I'm like, you've had 4 years to figure out that what you're doing ain't working. Yeah? You've had 4 years to figure that out. And you're kind of running in the same circle and hoping for a different outcome. And I feel for him because I'm like, he's very pro his fighters in a way that is quite endearing, actually. But he's also putting them in harm's way needlessly. Because he hasn't got people around him that can say, oh, no, hold on. Instead of making Jamie versus Richard, which doesn't make any sense, Ben, because Richard's fought for a world title. Jamie's trying to work his way up that ladder. So this isn't really fair on Jamie, a guy you built from zero, who was going to be a case study for how boxing looks after fighters. And now you're just basically taking all the value out of Jamie. Yeah? You should have fought for better opportunities for both guys. And at some point, if it makes sense, let them meet further down the line. He doesn't do stuff like that. And this is another problem. We can't keep having people come in with their new ideas of how to do boxing. Boxing will not change. Hearn tried. Did you remember when Hearn first came? Look, everyone's got my phone number. If you've got something to say about boxing, you can call me on this number. Do you remember when he kind of had some hair here?
Yeah.
And he used to dress like a geography teacher. Yeah? Do you remember that? He used to dress like a
rather than on a Millwall away day, which is what he's dressing as now.
Millwall away day or 50-year-old man who chases 18-year-old women.
Yeah, in Australia.
Mate. He had a good, apparently, there were rumours that he had a good run in Australia before he picked one and committed.
Apparently so. Millwall on tour in Australia.
Shocking.
Pre-season.
Do you remember when he went through the Canelo phase of like Narco Eddie?
The Dolce & Gabbana pyjamas. And at that point, he's like a 40-odd-year-old man. Ah. And do you know what? It reminds me. My son, who's like, he's 16, but he'll go through these phases where he'll find like, what was it a few years back? Chinese shipping warehouse, Panda Buy. And Panda Buy was like shit hot for if you wanted some knockoff Nike trainers or whatever, or like Dolce & Gabbana pajamas. And you'd see like certain folk knocking about that were like the dads of the kids that could get away with it, but had realised their kids were doing it, so they sort of added on to the order, and then it came through, and they have to sort of wear it because they've got it now. That's what it looked like.
And then it started to trickle down. Then you saw Coogan do it. And the thing with Coogan is he can't carry anything off. Other than being behind the camera, he can't carry anything off because he's not a guy that inspires you to want to dress like him.
He's not cool enough. Let's be like, he's not cool enough. Like, as much as Hearn has his haters and whatever, there was a period of time where Hearn was cool. Like, and it was fun to sort of take the mick out of him a little bit, but deep down, there's a respect for him. He was actually pretty cool. I don't think you've ever sort of thought that about Coogan. Oh, I never have. Don't have any hate for the guy. I just don't think he hasn't got that charisma about him.
I don't have hate. I think the guy's just a bellend. He's like when he's trying to throw you under the bus with Hearn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's that kind of rat shit that he does. Where it's like, well, no. If you and I are going head to head, don't run off and go and get your mate Eddie to try and do damage because we're going to see you.
Yeah. And,
often if they can find dirt on people, like, piece of shit, man. Fuck that guy. I'm going for Mike Tyson here. Forget that guy, man.
Yeah,
you know, like I went to that weigh-in. I went to the Chisora Wilder weigh-in. And
I love that episode.
And I was trying to fuck. Like, I got to a point, and I was like, I'm just fuck this guy up, man. But my head couldn't justify it because I'm older now. Like, if I'd been 25, I'd have just done it. Now I'm old. I'm like, you know, this is the internet's going to be talking. I'm going to get no money out of it. What am I really doing it for? But I saw him and I said, look at him. The guy says all that stuff online. He does all these things, all these little sneaky things that come back to me. And then when I'm looking him dead in his eye, like his head keeps going that way, then that way. I'm like, no, I'm here. You can't pretend I'm not here, Kugito, man. You can't pretend I'm not here. You little rat.
Sonny Edwards, there's one to shout out from my list. The amount of times he was... What was the one that he tweeted? Where was it?
Oh, mate, like, you genuinely are the British Candace Owens. You're the one guy that no one wants to antagonize because, like, the dossier comes out and it's a wrap.
Daniel is a legitimate businessman and a man who has also never paid me a penny. True story.
So you're doing free promo? Like Danny Connor did, like free promo. Remember Danny was glazing. And I know Danny made no money off those guys.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, like, with that organization, there's certain people I've seen photographs, right? And I can't say whether they're part of it or not, but they're guys that we used to see in Marbella way back in the day. So these are people I know personally, like sparred with a couple of them, know them, had drinks with them, right? So when these guys talk about, oh, I know this guy in Dubai, I always look and I go, yeah, but you're just going to tell them it's me? And they'll be like, nah, leave Terry alone. So that's why I've never been bothered about saying stuff, because people kind of know me. But these guys, never underestimate the proportion of professional boxers and people in the sport that are bona fide bitches. Do not underestimate how many of them there are. And if you've got a Rolex on and a chain around your neck, yeah, they will drop to their knees. It is embarrassing to see. But it tells you how little most people in boxing earn that they have to behave that way. But I see this all the time. Whenever there's people with money, like, oh, Terry, this is the guy's my sponsor. He's my sponsor. I'm like, listen, you're 29 years old. If that dude's your sponsor, find a way to get an income off him after your boxing. Yeah, you might need a job with this guy. You're just here in awe of this guy. You're not hustling. Do you know what I mean? And that's how these guys get involved, whether they're legitimate businessmen or not. That's how they get involved in boxing, because they know people in boxing, just like the drug game. Not linking the two. I'm just saying that in another world, there's a drug game, and you can dangle a Rolex in front of a kid, and that's it. You'll have it. A lot of these boxers were groomed. Yeah, a lot of these boxers were groomed. And that's all you saw there. Like, now they've got to live with the consequences of that, because when this investigation happens, and remember, this isn't about Kinahan going to Ireland. This is about Kinahan going to America. Mate, they just took Maduro out of Venezuela, a sitting leader of a country with an army, not a bunch of your mates from Dublin. And not a bunch of your mates from Dublin and a few scousers. Like an army, like people who train from 16 to kill people, yeah? And the Americans said, we don't care what they've got. We're going to go in, take who we want, and go out. You don't think they're going to take Kinahan? And then when they open the books on that.
And I think what was so sad about it is the ease of which it happens. As in, like, the ease of which it was just accepted and now part of boxing culture, and the ease of which these people would, and whether they're ever mates with or associates with, or whatever it may be, but were willing to come out and put their reputation on the line for whatever benefit they were getting out of it. And I'll include, like, the biggest one for me is Coogan, because it's his platform. It's his platform that gave the opportunity for most of it. But the fact that podcasts, videographers, etc., is an unpoliced world means that you could just use it for that soft influence of going out and saying anything you want without it being fact-checked, verified, etc., and giving that platform while taking the money to give that platform. I just think it's like to now not even... It's amazing how the Ring Magazine, IFL TV Twitter accounts haven't acknowledged the arrest of one of the biggest boxing managers of the last few years. Because let's not forget the Ring account, and one of the Ring employees is Mike Coppinger. Mike Coppinger, who voted for Daniel Kinahan as Manager of the Year a few years back. Mike Coppinger, who was doing this big piece that he was writing up about Daniel Kinahan, how he's such a great manager. Mike Coppinger, who was tweeting out about how boxers were getting these great purses, great contracts via Daniel Kinahan, what a great man he was, is now an employee of The Ring magazine, which is owned by... There we go.
Now, let's just extend that, right? Do you remember when people first started talking about Saudi money? And it wasn't Turkey at first. It was the guy that was into Badu Jack, the Abdallah guy who's now being listed pro. He's actually quite a nice guy, on a side note. So I'm not going to throw shade his way because I don't think he's done anything shady.
I will.
I know that's coming. So you remember when it was first mooted about, Saudi want to do some boxing. And everyone in boxing went, mate, we're not going to Saudi Arabia. Human rights record, terrible, kill people, kill journalists. Nah, I can't be part of that. Yeah, look, let's not talk about being involved in narco-terrorism. That's different. We're talking human rights over here. They're being violated over here. You know, they're killing journalists. We're not going to go with that. That was what it was, right? And then that kind of died off. And then Turkey came and just went, Mark Chamberlain, $1 million. Saudi Arabia is a great country. Oh, God. I didn't know there was so much sun. I didn't know it was possible. I took a solar-powered battery charge and I could charge my phone with solar power. Who would have thought that? You can't do that in England. And that's why you're all bitter, because you can't charge your phone with a solar charger in Britain. But I can do that in Saudi Arabia, so they're all right by me. I will take their money. I will fight in their country because I can charge my phone. I can put it on top of my car, and in 15 minutes, it's 100%. That's really what happened. It was crazy how quick that happened. Do you remember Frank Warren was the first one? He's like, oh, man. Why? What do you mean Eddie's going to Saudi Arabia? Well, if you want to be around all those people that violate human rights, okay. And this is all allegations. I don't want to get sued. So I'm not saying this is true or not, but Frank was giving interviews where he wasn't very high on Saudi Arabia. And then they said, Frank, we can work together. So, yeah, we wouldn't mind going out to Saudi. Riyadh season? That's what you want to call it? Ooh, I want some of that. And then here we are. No one asks any questions. Oh, well, you let women drive yet? You'll never go to school? What's happening? You looking after minorities in your country? Don't ask these questions. No, just take money. Drinia. It was Joshua. That was it. It was Joshua Ruiz. That Drinia thing that they did. Yeah. And I'd watch that and go, if we can go from MTK to this, right? There's no depth to which boxing will not sink. There's no depth.
And do you know what? Out of all of this, right, I know I'm name checking certain things. There's one person I won't name check on my list in that way. And that one person is Lee Eaton. In that, I have so much respect for Lee. And I know he was the promoter or the organizer, whatever it may have been, of MTK. Right? That's on the record. Everybody knows that. But Lee came from that white-collar background, grafted his way to his opportunities. He worked for MTK before he was their promoter. He was their, logistics man. And Lee grafted and got that MTK role and then went on and has become head of boxing, I think, at Frank Warren. And he, on the side of that, was grafting, doing different jobs of I think there was a bin cleaning company. I remember on Facebook that he was doing during lockdown and stuff. that was someone that actually I've got massive respect for. You know, if you're going to be involved in all of that MTK organisation, there are certain people that I struggle with out of it. But Lee is one that I'm like, do you know what? Actually, he kept his head down during it. He never did the interviews. He never did the advocacy. He just kept his head down and did his job. And he did it very well with the materials that he had to hand. And he's gone on and created a career for himself. And I know you talked about it the other day on the podcast of like how well or how much hard work it must be to be that role. I have huge respect for Lee of like how he's gone about doing what he's done and the career that he's forged. I know I've sort of said about the MTK side of it, it's almost like financial doping, and I stand by that. But the one person I'd give credit to out of it all would be Lee.
Yeah, he like people may not understand this one, but when you spend time with Lee, the thing is, he really cares about the fighters.
Yeah.
Yeah, he really, really cares. That's not an act. It's not for the cameras. He genuinely cares. But he's a guy, like, I remember him when he used to do the EBA shows back in the day. So that's, like, Lee and I go back, like, to that era. And when he was doing that, he had no idea that he'd end up doing mainstream boxing.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
And it's almost, I'm not going to say by accident because it's by hard work, but it is almost by accident that he'd end up going from that EBA side of things where he'd have like, I don't know, Mark Little at the time of being like an Essex ticket selling white collar boxer essentially, who went on to then be a pro boxer. Yeah. Spiros Demetrius, those kind of guys that went on and sort of fought for Southern area titles, those kind of things. Lee was working at that level and now he's working at the very top level. And I say, of all the people, he's the one that went from the bottom to working at the top that actually I do give credit to out of all of it. Because I think his graft and his dedication to the craft of what he did, he's made the most of it. And I like that.
He had the career that I thought Kevin Campion would have. Where Kev was kind of positioning himself as that kind of glue type figure who had done enough matchmaking and enough managing where you're like, he can make things happen. And so that never seemed to materialize for whatever reason. But Lee's kind of been that young guy that the sport needed that can connect all the dots, which makes him really valuable. I don't think Sam Jones has it because Sam's a guy who's kind of trying to engage the grassroots almost as a hygiene factor, but Lee came up through the grassroots. So he's been able to see that kind of, a lot of these people grow and develop in a way that some of these other guys haven't. And this is what annoys me, is there are too many people who are trying to enter boxing at the top floor, and that's what's killing it. I don't know if you saw the notice for Matchroom, where Matchroom were just like, listen,
the thing about the media
with press passes now. What the fuck is this?
Yeah. And we've said about it so many times about there being no barrier to entry to doing anything in boxing. There is no barrier to entry, and I do. Do you know what? I don't mind Sam Jones as a bloke. I genuinely don't mind him. I think I've sort of interviewed him before on various things. He's actually quite an affable bloke and but I don't think he should be in a position where he's able to take fighters from other trainers and managers and place them with big promotional organisations. I question that. How does that influence come about?
Yeah, and also, like, he's torched a lot of careers. Cameron Vaughn was one of his guys, right?
Yeah.
Torched him. He was. I'm sure he was involved in the Joe Joyce fighting Zhilei Zhang debacle. Like, Joe just had to chill out and just wait for Usyk.
Yeah.
And someone's gone, just take the money.
So go back to that original point of the 10 years, what we've been doing. I think we go back, and I like it when you bring up some of those old school names on your episodes of like when you mention Craig Richards, like chuck him in there. And how good was it to see Brad Pauls the other day get that win like the names of the people, because a lot of the names of the people we talked about during our sort of heyday have gone.
Yeah.
They've gone. Linus gone. Retired because the opportunities just weren't opening up, and he sort of fell out of love with the sport a bit. I'm in contact with Linus still. He's enjoying being retired. He stays around gyms. He's enjoying playing his Sunday league football. Stays in shape. But those names that are sticking around still, that we've seen through from like day dot, the likes of Brad Pauls, Craig Richards, Dan Aziz, we'd want to see more of before he sort of hangs the gloves up. They're all nearly gone. And this is my issue with the sport, is that, I mean, maybe it's because I'm not close enough to it now. I don't care enough about it. But I don't care enough about it because there aren't those boxers that I have a real passion for.
Connection with.
And the one that sort of gets me a little bit, I mentioned earlier, George Liddard. I quite like George Liddard. I don't know what it is about him. I quite like his style. I quite like his personality.
Yeah.
That Tyler Denny fight sort of showed a few flaws that I think, he's got a ceiling that's going to be hard to overcome. But if I look at who would I attach myself to emotionally and as a fan over the next 5 years, and would we be doing it in 10? I'm struggling. I'm really struggling. You say like Cameron Vuong, he's a symptom of like at the Matchroom just chucked a load of names at us for a period of about a year and went, this one's brilliant, this one's brilliant, this one's brilliant, this one's... And none of them are stuck.
They're all fragile. And this is the thing that... This is why you need old heads. I believe knowledge transfer is one of the most important things in anything. The old guys have to tell the young guys what mistakes they made, right? Because that's what experience is. It's why I like speaking to guys like Joe G. Like, Joe can tell me about the times when Crawler won a world title. I'm not going to say they're easy, because they're not easy. But we all know what the right answer is when someone wins. I like the bits where he's like, I could have done that better. Because I know I can learn from that. And we don't have enough of that knowledge transfer. We don't have enough young guys seeking out Joe Gallagher, seeking out a Chris Medley who just called me, seeking out, people say I don't like these people, but it's not true. Seeking out a Mark Tibbs, a Tony Sims, etc. Young guys aren't going and doing that. Look at what Ben Davison did. Ben Davison was just like, I'm babysitting Tyson Fury through his coke binges, etc. Now I'm going to train him. And I'm going to train him for his comeback until people were like, Big John Fury was like, this guy's useless. He's not a good trainer. And then they got Sugar Hill in, and it's like, well, you're not a good trainer because Tyson really just wanted a babysitter.
Yeah.
And so that lack of knowledge transfer is killing us. Because if you had said to me, Cameron Vong, I'd have said, look, let this kid fight guys like Jordan Flynn, people of his generation. You start putting him in with these tough guys, he's going to fall apart because he hasn't built that resilience yet.
Who was it he fought? The Welsh fellow, wasn't it?
Was it Gwyn?
Gavin Gwyn.
Yeah. They're young with that, man. Like, these are hard men that you got to build yourself up to fight. And people don't understand that. They think, 115-time national champion. Oh, he should be able to handle this. It's like, no.
What's that Sam Gilly Aston Brown fight on Friday night?
I saw who knew Gilly had pop in his hands like that?
Yeah, I mean, he's. I love Sam, by the way. Like, I've known Sam for many years. He is what he is. He's not going to be a world champion, but he should be a British champion by now. And if it wasn't for the Louis Green pullout, he probably would be. Yeah. But he's just a fun fighter, and he doesn't pretend to be anything else. Again, he's another one who came from that unlicensed background without an amateur background. I enjoyed watching that because Aston Brown was a very good amateur up in Scotland, wasn't he? He did very well. So to see Sam go up there and do that again, it's just a case of like that hardened, experienced, tough guy down in London against a very good amateur.
Mate, think about this. You do rounds on a weekly basis with guys like Denzel Bentley. I mean, there are no surprises for you after that. You're like, well, all right. If I survive that, I'm going to survive anything.
Yeah.
And that's what we don't have. So when you say you're not excited by anyone, that's why you're not excited, because we don't... And I've said this on the pod so many times. Boxing gyms are just open churches. Any kid can come in. but it's not necessarily the kids you would want to come in. And I'm not saying that to disrespect everyone who does show up, but I want kids who are kicking heads in on the local estate to come in and box. Because I know there's certain things about them I'm not going to have to teach. But then there's also the other part where I've got this young kid, Charlie, who's, he's in year 12. He had his first fight a couple of weeks ago. Like, Charlie's from a good family. You know, they pay school fees and whatnot. And the old man sent him to the gym and said, I just want my son to be more confident and to believe in himself. So I was like, cool. Oh, we could definitely do that with him. And he's been boxing a couple of years. And he had his first fight debut. A bit like your lad, Oscar, yeah? He's tall, like he's 6'3" or something. And you know when they're that tall and they're just getting leverage in the shots and you're just watching it going, oh, ref, just stop the fight. Just pinging him, just pinging. And so you get kids like that. But I know that if you took young Charlie and you put him in with one of these angry kids from Brixton, it could get messy if he's not on his game. And that's what we've got in pro boxing, is the fact that there are a lot of guys like your Ishmael Davises who are strong, tough guys who will make life hell for you. And a lot of these young prospects might get put in with an Ishmael Davis and then find out, I'm not quite built for this.
Yeah, that's and what you say about getting the kids off the street. You don't need to teach them to fight. You need to teach them to box. Yeah. I see it with my lad, and he's had a few now. Sort of won a couple, lost a couple. He doesn't have that killer instinct about him because he's not. All right. What you want is that kid who's a bit of a dick, like who's got that bit of a dick underlying nature about him that wants to hurt people. Yeah. That's not what my lad's about. He doesn't come from that background. He's not had street fights throughout his life. And by his own admission, he's not that. But he is actually a decent little boxer, but he's not a killer. He's not going to go in, and he will go in to hurt you. He won't go in to take your head off. He'll go in to box a nice fight. Yeah. And if that opportunity is there to get a stoppage, he'll go for that stoppage. He won't go in to flatline you. If he did it, he'd probably feel, an element of remorse about it. And yeah, it is, you do need that, like, that underlying nature of being an arsehole.
Yeah, and also the ability to be coachable. I remember we had this Bulgarian kid, Kiro, right? And he came to some box. He had like this Mike Tyson style. He might have also been in love with a syringe. I don't know. I'm not saying. But lovely guy. But he'd go into the ring. And if you didn't survive the first 90 seconds with him, the fight would probably get stopped. So that his approach was, if I don't get him out in the first round, put the towel on your shoulder. So anyway, he had a mixed record, right? Like if he caught you, you were gone. He was a bit like Babbage.
Yeah.
You exactly like Alan Babbage. So anyway, a few years later, man, it turns out this guy's like an enforcer in Bulgaria again. And I was like, there you go. That's just what he is. Do you know what I mean? He gravitates towards that. Like the Georgian guy that Billy Joe was meant to fight.
Oh, the one who ended up in prison.
It did him on a RICO, of all the things.
Billy Joe was one, wasn't he? He was an advocate.
Oh,
he was.
He still is.
Probably.
But he toys with getting back into boxing, doesn't he?
It's a weird one, isn't it? He had that Canelo fight, and I don't know, was the money just good enough after that you? And who's going to blame the man for it? I'd never sort of blame.
You've had everything your own way your whole life, boxing wise.
Yeah.
When you get the crap beaten out of you, like he did against Canelo, and Canelo starts humiliating, because remember once he had Billy hurt, he started showboating.
He was taking out all of the last 3 weeks of the build up on Billy Joe at that point.
And sometimes I think boxers realise there's a level, and I'm not at it. So what's the point? And Billy Joe realised that pretty quickly, that he was at that level where he's not great. He's not a boxing great. Yeah, he's just not.
Yeah, he was a really good fight, wasn't he, Billy Joe? Actually, I'd love to see him come back, even if it was just to be not a gatekeeper, because that's the wrong term, but like a test to probably light heavyweights at this point. Let's be honest, is I'd like to see him just. I was never a massive fan of the person, but I liked him as a boxer.
Yeah.
It's a shame that he sort of seemed to have lost his way after that Canelo fight.
Isn't it crazy that he's younger than Fury? He's younger than Joshua.
Is he?
Or is he slightly older than Joshua? He's about the same age as Joshua, yeah.
Yeah. But I'd sort of bracket him with being probably about the same age as Callum Smith.
Yeah.
I'd guess. And sort of Callum Smith has just kept that consistency throughout his career. And they sort of both fought Canelo, for instance. Both got a hiding off of him. But Callum's kept it going. Callum, was meant to be fighting last night, wasn't he? But
look how far ahead Callum is of the other light heavies.
Yeah.
And I think how far behind he is compared to a Canelo.
Yep.
That's the reality check British boxing needs. Callum Smith, a guy that caught a very, very injured George Groves, is the number one light heavyweight in this country by a distance. And we were talking about guys like Boatsy being future world champions. And Callum's like, no. He's not on my level.
Yeah.
That lets you know and Callum fights everyone. Every leap year, Callum Smith has a fight, right? And that's the damning indictment of boxing. That none of these guys coming through can get rid of that generation. Do you know what I mean? That's the painful part of it, Martin. That really, that's heartbreaking. That none of these guys, none of your Willie Hutchinsons, etc., are in a position to put those guys out to pasture. Del Boy's the best example of that.
Yep.
Yeah. Boxing convention is this. You get put... Mate, my drains are dying on me. Fuck me. So basically, someone should have put Chisora out to pasture by now. And they've sent people to do it, and they haven't been able to.
Yep. And now they're trying the older ones to do it.
Yeah. And they won't put a Talmud in with those guys because they're like, I'm not sure. So I don't know, mate. Like you said, 10 years later, all we've got left is Canelo.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, Joshua and Fury, they're still relevant enough names. I'd bracket them in with Canelo.
But Canelo's a guy that I believe could fight anyone and still would. There'd be no I'm going to fight Jake Paul first, or I'm going to fight Aspinall or Eddie Hall. There'd be none of that. Canelo's going to have that real purist type career. Whereas I think the other two have chased the money. Canelo's kind of had the money come to him by taking some dangerous fights, winning some and losing some, the way people used to. It's him left. No, now that Crawford's retired, there's no one of that kind of 2016 vintage where you're like, yeah, they're still in position to be special. Not really.
Yeah. How long do you see yourself doing the podcast for? Because I genuinely admire your ability to keep it going, because my passion for the sport died probably over lockdown. I'd say that's when my true passion for sort of getting out to events, and when people couldn't go to events for that period of time, I never picked it back up on the back end of lockdown, and I never had this. I'd found other things to invest my time in because boxing had never given enough back. I didn't miss it when lockdown was over, so I'd still stay somewhat invested, but never the same again in terms of emotional investment. So I admire your ability to still have that investment. I know yours is different because you do the coaching as well, and that sort of makes a difference, but how long can you keep it going for?
I'll be done when guys like John Pilato, Craig Richards are done, I reckon. Because they're guys that I know as people. I could be on a night out and be out with JP and Craig. Now, these young guys coming through, your Leo Attangs, your Moses Atalmas, yes, I know them. But I know them as being the more senior guy by some distance. So I don't have that connection with them, which makes content richer and more interesting. So there's a new generation of kids who have to come through, who have come up with these guys. and they'll be able to tell better stories than I will. So I know when my era goes, that'll be me done. Because not that I won't have anything to say, but I won't be able to give an added level of insight that you couldn't get anywhere else.
Who's going to be the death knell? Like, who's going to be the boxer that when they hang their gloves up, then that means your podcasting days are done?
Oh. my gut says Craig Richards. Because, and people won't know this, but in terms of regular communication, Craig and I, you can go as far back as you want. Even before he turned pro, we've always kind of talked. He precedes JP a lot as well. So Craig is a guy that this whole kind of podcasting journey has been seen through that kind of lens of someone's career rising and falling. I don't mean falling in a bad way, but there's a time, you fight Bivol now, you're fighting Dan Aziz and Ghana. This is just the circle of life. So I look at it from that, I'm like, I don't want to be like Coogan. Where you just kind of, you shouldn't be there anymore. Mate, you built a brand and a business, and by now you should have had people doing this for you, and you were just enjoying yourself. But you're here competing with 21-year-olds, and you're getting smoked by Boxing King Media, smoked by BKM, who I've now met in person, had a good chat with him, and I really like him. I know Porky has his issues, but Porky's warming to him as well. For what he's trying to do, he will bury Coogan, because Coogan's very event-driven. Stick a camera in front of this guy because he's popping, do the numbers. Well, I think when you watch Boxing King Media content, it's kind of there's an angle to where this is just a bit more interesting. And I think I would love the content to go that way. Give me video footage of Boxer X just fishing on a Sunday. Interview him while he's fishing. Do you know what I mean? Or for good content, get 8 boxers down to team sport go-karting and let them race each other. Can you imagine that? Fight week, Monday of fight week, you get 8 guys on the card, take them down to team sport, 500 quid prize money for the winner, 200 quid for the fastest lap. Bam! You know what I mean? Can you imagine that? You know what I mean? You put the GoPros on them. That would be quite funny.
Yeah.
You can't do it too many times, but that's an idea.
Yeah. I find, I genuinely don't engage with boxing content aside from yours. I don't listen to a single boxing podcast. I can't remember the last time I sat and watched a long form piece of boxing content at all. I haven't sat and watched one of the IFL Eddie interviews for years. The Boxing King Media stuff, I quite like. He sort of clips up some good stuff for social media. It doesn't drive me to want to go and watch all of it, because it's still ultimately sitting down with Ingle, whatever it may be. Ebony Bridges seems to have his hook into that Sheffield scene. It doesn't engage me to want to go and watch it. And I don't know how I get back into watching stuff like that, really. I think it's gone, but it just feels stale. The whole videographer stuff feels stale. Okay, put it this way. 10 years ago, you had IFL were the biggest channel by a country mile, and there were a few others that sat underneath them. What's changed from IFL or anyone else in terms of the content output in 10 years?
And it's still the same people. When you see Radio Raheem, you see Michelle Joy Phelps, you're like, these are still the same people.
Yeah, there's no evolution to any of it. And boxing is one of those sports where the participants are accessible away from the Sky Sports Monday Night Football. They're available to these content creators. You don't get Erling Haaland doing a video of a camera jockey. He'll only do it after a match on a Monday Night Football, or he'll only do it with GQ magazine. He's not doing it with some bloke who happens to own a 200 quid camera.
It has to go through the right channels.
Yes, yeah. And to that end, it's a privileged position that boxing creators should be in, that they have that ability to have access to the stars of the product. Even if it's not the A-list stars, maybe it's not Pacquiao and Mayweather, but it's the next level down. They've got access to those people. But nobody's ever bothered to evolve what it is as fans that we get out of it. So why do I give a fuck watching it?
Most people, it's weird, isn't it? Because like, I'm lucky enough that I can go and observe, right? Because I don't really, I'm not a guy that's going to do interviews live. Not that it's beneath me, it just doesn't excite me. So I'll observe and I'll look. Like, most people are here just because they want to stand next to Wilder. They don't really have a plan beyond that. So when you see people at your call asking questions, it's very banal questions. And it's the same thing with like guys like Rob Tebbett. His shit hasn't evolved.
No.
It just hasn't.
I don't think any. Like, genuinely none. Like, even the camera angle people are shooting from for all these things, that hasn't changed. It's the same. Everything is the same. The questions are probably the same as they were 10 years ago. I don't watch them enough to know, but what are you possibly asking boxers in 2026?
You know the worst bit about it, Martin? I'll tell you what the worst bit is. When the boxers became the channels and you were like, oh, you're going to ask something different because obviously you've been a fighter. You're going to give us a new angle. Connor, what's your favorite tattoo? That, all those years in the ring, Connor, what's your favorite tattoo? That's when you knew this thing's done. Like, you know, Carl Froch, for all the stuff he talked about, just kind of embarrassed himself, hasn't he? He has, Simon Jordan has, Adam Cattrall definitely has.
Adam Cattrall's the worst one, isn't he? Oh.
But you can't talk so hard about drugs and strict liability and then fold in front of Conor Benn.
And then put out a tweet going, oh, on review, I seem to have not met my own high standards. Adam, we never had high standards of you. You were dog shit from day one.
Yeah, man, go back and be a DJ in Blackburn, get sacked again, man. We don't care about you.
Yeah. He's the only one that seems to have anticipated he would have high standards.
Yeah, but he's a safe clown. Like Tebbett, like Coogan. They're all safe clowns, just little chimps. Little chimps that you just let out the cage to be little chimps. Ask dumbass questions and, you know, Eddie feels comfortable and safe. But Eddie won't ever stick himself in front of people like us. Because he knows we're ready. Yeah. But he won't. In the same way, he'll never mention us by name, but he'll always make reference. And he's just saying, I listen, but I'm not going to give you the oxygen. And you're like, well, whatever, man. Like, who cares? At the end of the day, who really cares? Yeah, you're a man that decided to spend more time running around chasing fighters than staying at home. That's what I'll always know Hearn for. People talk about his work ethic and stuff. As I've got older, Martin, and as my life has evolved, and I see my mum getting slightly older and stuff, I couldn't imagine spending 300 days away and not going to see my mum and spending time with her. And I definitely couldn't go and be a tax exile in Monaco. Just ethically, I couldn't do that. So when these guys like to take shots, I get it. But when I see grown men fanboying a guy like that, I'm like, well, where are your morals? What are your standards? Because boxing can never be devoid of standards itself. Like, don't be out there mocking certain people and go, these guys are losers, when these are the people who hold it down for their families. That's what I'll say on that. And that's something I say to Hearn face to face, because man to man, you're like, wait, what the hell are you doing in Monaco? Think of all the stuff you're missing, but who am I to judge? But that's what I would say. You know, but just to bring it all the way back to evolving the media content. Until the broadcaster owns the package, the content won't change. So maybe that's what Zuffa will be able to do, is to own the fighters so they own the content. But then what UFC stuff have you watched and gone, that's amazing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty detached from UFC stuff. I found it interesting that they took Conor Benn to WrestleMania, didn't they? You see that? They had Conor Benn hooking up with Logan Paul. Just sort of like pre-WrestleMania, get him out on the stage, get him with Logan. It'd be interesting to see, we've said it so many times in the past, that crossover UFC, wrestling, boxing, if you can cross-pollinate the fan bases between each of those three sports, I mean, the opportunity for growth is out of those.
But that's what Hearn's trying now, isn't it? Like the Matchroom Talent Agency is just that. It's a funnel acquisition.
But then they just sign like a rugby player, like a UFC fighter.
2 rugby players now. They've got Pollock and Finn Russell.
Have they? I didn't see the Pollock one, but it just sort of feels scattergun.
That's what it's meant to be. So Hearn wants to insert himself into rugby. Rugby starts glazing him. Oh my God, Eddie Hearn cares about us. No, he doesn't. He just wants rugby lads to think about boxing when planning events. Oh, we're doing a stag do. Let's go down to the boxing. Because he knows the average income of a rugby player is higher than the average income of a football player, or football fans, I should say. Right? He'll do the demographics around that. He'll also know that getting Molly McCann will bring MMA fans to boxing. Getting Aspinall involved and linked to match will bring MMA. Hearn's not stupid, because we've never forgotten that he did nothing with the gymnastics. Remember.
Yeah.
When we do events at the O2, 20,000 sellout. I don't know what the kid's
Louis, what was his name? Louis.
I'll say Lou Tomlinson?
No, he's from One Direction, isn't he?
Oh, fuck
no. What's his name? He's on like Dancing with the Stars or whatever.
I remember, yeah, but it tanked.
Louis Smith.
Yeah, that tanked. I'm sure they did table tennis once upon a time. The Matchroom haven't... What star have Matchroom created? Don't say Joshua. Because Joshua has the same career whoever he's with. He's a 6'6" guy in good shape and an Olympic gold medalist. He prints his own money. Hearn was good in being brave enough to talk about stuff like filling Wembley. I don't know if anyone else would have had the balls to think that was possible. That's about it. Conor Benn's Nigel's son. So who's he really built?
No, I know. The one that I'll give him credit for, if he goes on to do something with him, is Ben Whittaker. If he goes on to do something with him, and time will tell with that. But Ben's not young; he's 48.
29 this year.
29
has to be, because Courtney's 30 now, and Courtney was the year ahead of him in the amateurs.
Yeah, so he's at an age where you can't keep the brakes on him. You're going to have to accelerate it.
Yeah.
They talk about him as a global superstar, but he's fighting up in Liverpool on what was meant to be an undercard. They're talking about taking him to America to go and fight over there. You need to get a move on with it. Someone else has done the groundwork for you. We should be familiar enough with the concept of Ben Whittaker already. He was an Olympian. He's fought on Sky Sports. It's like they're nervous to take that risk with him.
Look at the waters he's going to have to swim. You've got some of the Craig Richards waters, the Dan Aziz waters, the Woody Hutchinson waters. Zach Chelly waters. Like 175, there's a lot of depth to it. Now, okay, there's no Bivol or Beterbiev, but you got to get through a lot of meaty, tasty guys. Even in Ezra Taylor, you got to get through some tasty guys to bubble up at world level. And if you want to be great, and I think Ben does, like I talk to his old man a lot, Ben wants to be great. Like the myth that he's this kind of influencer boxer is bullshit. He's a guy steeped in this game. And he knows that to be great, he's going to have to deal with a lot of those guys sooner rather than later.
Yeah. And I'll give Hearn credit. If he turns Whittaker into a stadium fighter in the next 5 years, if he makes him into that superstar. And I know that's predicated on the fact that Whittaker's good enough to do it, and that's nothing to do with Hearn, whether he is or he isn't. But if he's able to leverage that social media following that he's got, if he's able to leverage that personality and charisma that Whittaker's got, the style, and do everything he can and make him into that stadium fighter as the next pay-per-view, I'll give Hearn a lot of credit for that, because he'd have built that.
Do you know why I won't? Hearn didn't get him the gig with Diesel.
Jordan.
Yeah. Hearn didn't get him the opportunity to film, is it Insides, which I heard is coming up soon as well. There's loads of stuff that other people are doing for Ben, which is doing wonders for his brand. And really, Hearn's biggest risk is ruining that. Ben, because we've done a pod for 10 years. Ben Whittaker was one of the names I first mentioned.
Yeah.
And I said, this kid's special. I wanted him to go to the 2016 Olympics instead of Anthony Fowler. But, as luck would have it, he didn't. But I've felt Ben was special from day one, because I haven't seen anything like it since. Yeah? Oh, he's just a flash showboater. Then you see him as an amateur sit down on his shots and hurt people. Then the same people are like, oh, man, he's got no class. Why is he hurting that kid when he's better than him? Then he dealt with Jordan Reynolds easily. And at that point, that was when Jordan Reynolds was done, because Jordan was meant to be the guy. Ben took over from that. So I've always believed in Ben. It's just, they can't be afraid of him losing. Yeah? If he loses to a guy like Spider, that's not a bad thing. It might be the wake-up call you need. Liam Cameron, that was a little too close and a bit too early to be kind of selling your O for that. But like a Craig Richards, if you can get that headlining in Birmingham, if he gets a draw or loss, there's no shame in that. Craig's still a viable fighter. But you've got to put him in that fire sooner rather than later.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I hope... So they're talking about taking him out to America. Why are you taking him to America? You've not built him in the UK yet. Not substantially enough. Like, what is the benefit of doing an America fight right now?
Here's my theory on it. When he goes out to New York, they're going to talk about him and Khalil Coe. And it's going to be like, look, these guys are amateurs together. What am I saying that for? They were amateurs together. Khalil turned pro earlier. And then Khalil Coe will be like, it's my little brother, but I can handle him. And they'll have a fight like that, because that's what Hearn does, right? If Hearn can do it in-house, he'll do it in-house. So I think you'll see a Khalil Coe type fight. That might even be the New York fight. I don't know. But there'll be a Khalil Coe type fight, and this is just planting the seeds for that.
Yeah. A few more from my list I need to tick off. I realise we're going on quite a while now. James English. Matthew Macklin for introducing to the sport. Fair play. Opened the door. Well, that was MGM, wasn't it? That's Macklin's Gym Marbella.
But this is Mac the Knife. This is full branding. Because that was his name, right? Mac the Knife Macklin.
Yeah.
Hey, Mr. Macklin.
Amir Khan, John O'Carroll, Roy Jones Jr., Badu Jack, Johnny Nelson, Adam Booth. Genuinely, that's...
Adam Booth was an advisor.
Yep.
Do you remember?
Yep.
MTK pleased to announce Adam Booth as like an advisor or mentor or something. He had a proper role.
Yeah, but all of those names and all the ones that I've mentioned, there's nothing controversial in me saying those names. They're all people that they're on record, they're on websites, they're on interviews of advocating for the work of Kinahan, by the way. Every one of them. So all I'm doing is repeating that they have said things in the past. That's a long old list with some incredible names. The likes of Roy Jones Jr. on there. Bob Aaron. All these people were advocates at one point or another. Now, whether they've revoked that advocacy, if they have, they ought to come out and say it, because they were very quick to come out and give their advocacy. And it just goes back to the craziness. The work of Kinahan, I don't care for one way or the other. It doesn't, whatever, cool. It doesn't bother me. The fact that it impacts upon the sport so much and how, again, just as a case study, and it should be a case study one day, allowing just no quality control around what people will say and do to try and earn a bit of money out of the sport. And that's basically what it is. Take away all the names involved. It's basically, it comes down, or boils down to, it's a sport where people will prostitute themselves willingly.
Beware of letting the fox in the chicken coop is something I believe in a lot. And there's a story. I will tell the story. When we were doing our A-levels, right, we used to organize raves and stuff. And so there's one rave where we were just going home afterwards. And we're walking through these fields, Martin, right? You'll know this. Countryside living does this to you. So you're walking through these fields. And we were like, do you know what? We need to find a house with a phone to call a taxi because I'm lazy at this point and pretty fucked. We find a house, yeah? And the house just looks abandoned. It's beautiful mansion house. Looks abandoned. And we're going around looking in the windows going, where's everyone? And you can see that it's dusty as hell. So you're like, no, does anyone live here? Right? So anyway, we call our mate who's a locksmith. So, yo, can you come around to the house? Yeah, come around to this house, see if you can get in. So we break into this house. I'm not going to say where it is, so I don't want a case. So we break into this house. And this becomes our chill-out house, right? Because no one ever came and it was far enough away from the neighbors that no one even knows. And I remember saying at the time, do not let any girls come to this house. As camp as that sounds, guys, apologies. But I said, don't. Why? Because we're too young to have any kind of influence over them. They'll go and tell someone else. But this house, right? Well, off mic, I can say whose it was, but I can't say it now. But this house is basically crazy. Hasn't been lived in. Last newspaper in there was from 5 years before. Hasn't been lived in. So anyway, one day go off on holiday, come back, and a load of lads have been arrested at that house. Why? Someone thought they were clever, trying to take a couple of girls back there. Got away with it the first time. Those girls have gone and told the older guys they fancy, oh, there's a house, we can just go here. Wait, what happened? The older guys showed up and it just kicked off. And at that point, now the neighbors can hear all the noise, right? The neighbors call the police. Everyone comes out, what the hell are you doing here? Luckily, when this all happens, I'm away. That was a national security incident. Yeah? And we could have held that for years. Because I think it's been sold now, but nothing happened after that. House wasn't lived in, nothing. For years after that. We could have held that for years. If we'd had it for 12 years, we could have just claimed vacant possession. But it's people allowing foxes in the chicken coop. And that's what happened with MTK. It's like, oh, mate, you can't sell your tickets? Oh, there you go. There's 10K. There's some tickets. There you go. 10K for your tickets. Oh, mate, anything you need from me next time? Cool. Okay, look, this guy owes me money. Can you just go and have a word with him? That's how it all started. Little favors behind the scenes, helping fighters out with a little bit of money here, come and train in the gym for free. And they started to do that, yeah? And then one day it was like, why don't we just start managing these guys? And then they saw how they could move money through the sport, and they were like, we need to take this over. And boxing wasn't ready for that. Whereas had you just kept them out from the beginning and said anyone involved or associated with these guys can't fight in the British ring, we'd be fine now.
Yeah, and I mean, ultimately it comes back to the point I made earlier about the British Boxing Board of Control. That's, to me, the Board of Control.
Yeah.
If you're not going to do any of the control element, then you're going to allow everything to happen. So I don't blame one person for it, outside of Robert Smith. It's meant to be a board of control. If you're not going to control, in football you have that fit and proper persons test. If you're not going to control it, then you end up in these scenarios.
I've always said, you shouldn't be allowed in boxing if you fail a DBS check.
Well,
Let's start there.
yeah. Yeah. We see enough people involved that shouldn't be. And the stories that leak out.
Exactly. And mate,
What about the ones that don't leak out?
that's my point. The times where people, burn your gym down, whatever. Well, I tell you, mate, you're done in the sport. If we see you around it's horrible, man. It's horrible. I think the Premier League has similar problems because you think about it, like there's certain players you have to buy, and you're essentially buying them off the mafia, right? But that happens in other countries. We just say, look, we got the player here, and here he's under the auspices of the FA and the Premier League. But we don't have a lot of gangsterism here, apart from the football agent with the gun in the restaurant.
Oh,
Was it Destiny Udogie?
Yeah. I can't remember his name. It's going to annoy me now.
So he was connected to a lot of young boxers. So he's connected to Courtney Bennett, for example. I think he's from Southeast London. And was that, trying to offer some advice and if you need any help. So anyway, I think my understanding of the story is he was saying, look, Udogie, I can look after you here. Yeah. Get you better deals, etc. And so I think he'd given Destiny Udogie some money ahead of them partnering up. Then Udogie's going, no, I'm going to stick with my agent. And so the guy goes to the restaurant to go, look, man, come on. Either give me my money back or let's do a deal. And Udogie's going, no to both. And he was like, no. You don't know who I am. Now, at this time, I wish he had worked for MTK because he'd have handled it better. Right? He would have known the protocol. He would have known the right people to call. You can't be sat in a restaurant with cameras on you pulling out a gun. Just saying. Weird thing to have to remind someone like, man, you can't just pull a gun out. Like, it's not a hip-hop video.
Where do you reckon boxing is in 5 years, right? Where do you reckon, is Hearn still going to be involved in boxing in 5 years? Is Warren still going to be involved in boxing in 5 years? Is Dana White still going to be involved in boxing in 5 years? It wouldn't surprise me if any of them individually were not involved anymore. Frank because of his age, Hearn maybe because of his passion, Dana White just turn around and go and do UFC. It didn't quite work out, whatever. It wouldn't surprise me if any of those three left. It also wouldn't surprise me if all three of them were still around.
So I had the view a year ago that when the Saudi money dries up, we're going to head back to the dark ages, right? But we always find another idiot. Now we got Netflix. So now Netflix will blow a couple of 100 million on boxing. So they'll all be there while that money's still available. It's after Netflix realized this isn't going to do anything for us and boxing will embarrass itself on Netflix. So that's something that's definitely going to happen. Someone's going to say something Sean Strickland-esque, right? Someone's going to do that. And then Netflix will pull out. And at that point, we'd have exhausted everything. And then we'll be back to Merthyr Tydfil Leisure Centre, Bournemouth International Centre. We'll be back to hoping York Hall will still accept us. We'll be doing all of those things because socioeconomically, we do not have a surplus. Very few families have an economic surplus where they can spend a couple of £100 on boxing 4 times a year. There just isn't that, right? And I don't know if that's maybe what Steve started to see, that the people who would normally just pop down, spend £100 on a ringside seat are now like, well, my mortgage has gone up because I remortgaged at 2%, now it's 5%. So I'm getting screwed. I'm having to pay £30 for a leg of lamb. Holidays are killing me. I can't afford boxing anymore. And there's a lot of that, by the way. That's why people have got the streaming devices. There's a lot of that. And I think socioeconomic factors may kill it sooner than all the other nonsense. I think it will just be that people can't afford £100 a ticket. And that's going to be hurtful.
And also if that supply line, that product line dries up underneath, going back to the earlier point of Johnny Clark and Top Tier, if it sounds like they're looking for a way out potentially in the near future. Steve Goodwin has left the sport. Steve Wood may leave the sport, who knows? But if that production line through the small hall, and granted 95% of small hall fighters never made it to the top platform, but if you're losing those B-side fighters that can come up onto a Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn show, if you're losing them from the small hall scene, that's a big part of the ecosystem that's gone. And that impacts then upon the level above. Okay, you get your medal winners from the Olympics, they go and sign with Matchroom. You get but they weren't even that interested in like the next level down, were they? Like the GB level. They weren't that bothered about signing them. You look at the bronze medalist from the Paris Olympics.
I can think of one perverse situation that may come up.
Whatever his name was, I can't even remember.
So let's think. I'm going to call it the Ty Mitchell scenario. I can see people, and I'll take someone like a Robbie Chapman as an example. A Robbie Chapman type boxer, as these small hall shows disappear, and they're like, well, I'm not making any money like I used to, they will start angling for these misfits slots, right? Because that's where the money's at.
Yeah.
Really, like, you earn good money on those, more than you would on a small hall show. So at that point, why would you do anything else? And if you're someone like Robbie, you can take people out to get that slot. Oh, yeah. Do you know what I mean? For the money, you'll start knocking people out. So I can see those guys, like your Ty Mitchells, going, well, the mainstream route ain't for me. I'm going to do this route and dominate in this space. Because I don't see that going away.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I'm surprised someone like Delicious Ori, when he retired from boxing, didn't just go and do the misfits thing. Of like, he was an Olympian. He came out of it, talked about a sort of vision of going and doing WWE one day.
Yeah.
And then in the end just retired from boxing after one fight because he said the money didn't make up for the passion that he'd lost out of doing it.
Yeah.
And actually, if the money was that good, it would make up for the passion. I'm not having it that it wouldn't. It's just that maybe the money wasn't incredible at that stage of where Delicious was in his journey. Maybe he realised he was never going to be at that top level to earn the money that would have replaced the passion element. I respect him, though, for walking away.
Yeah, he's got his corporate thing now, hasn't he? He's a financial advisor, which is fair enough. I talk to boxers about this all the time. And I say, look, you're a top-level athlete, yeah? And I've said this to, like, Denzel's a good example of this. I said, mate, you need to get a qualification, like a tax advisory thing. Because that's how you're going to make money. You know, you've got your WBO interim title now. You're a world champion. If you can get other boxers and say, listen, I can help you with your taxes, that's easy money. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know why more boxers don't do this. Like, this is kind of the Richie Gray model for handling life after boxing, is start planning now for what that end looks like. You know, because I'd hate to see guys like Denzel finish boxing and work in a factory. Like, he's way too good for that. But if you don't prep, it can happen to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's only so many PTs that are needed around the country, isn't there? Let's be honest.
Mate, you'll be surprised. I think there are more PTs than there are people now. I think it's 0.31 people for every personal trainer now.
For every PT.
Yeah. Can we touch on something quickly? And I want to give credit to one of my friends, DP, for this. We need to talk about women's boxing and OnlyFans, this really uncomfortable relationship that we're starting to see develop. Back to what the board, should be doing. Should the board be policing whether boxers, male or female, are using OnlyFans to sell images, sell services? My thing is, yes, they should. Because it can bring the sport into disrepute.
Yep.
There are female boxers who are engaged in activities that aren't good for the sport. And it's a worry. And I get it. Like, if you're being paid 10 grand to box in a 10 rounder, and then you're only fighting twice a year, I get it. But you've also got to look out for the sport, because OnlyFans has been a theme of our shows over the last six or so years, right? Because I always found it interesting, because I predicted we'd end up here, where after 50 years of feminism, we would realize women quite like being objectified. Not all of them, but a large number of them quite like being objectified. And if they can make money off it, brilliant. The boxers were just late to it. It was the BBW chicks, then it was like the dominatrix women and the bodybuilders. Then the MMA girls got involved, because they were like, how are these out of shape women choking men for money when we choke people for a living? So the MMA girls start to get money for, they call it ball busting, where they kick you in the nuts, choke you out and stuff. And then they've clearly told the boxers there's all this money to be made doing fetish stuff, because a lot of female boxers aren't conventionally attractive. You don't see women boxers at Paris Fashion Week, for example. You just don't. So they're making money on the fetish side of things. Imagine if those clips and videos start leaking out.
I hope they do. I don't even know who you're on about, but I hope they do leak out. Or maybe I don't. I'll be honest. Maybe I don't want to see those photos.
One day we'll see a boxer in a video with a lady called Paige Dumas. If you're listening to this, you need to Google Paige Dumas. I've never seen anything like it in my life.
Right, I don't know who Paige Dumas is.
Oh my God.
I am now off.
Looking now. Brilliant.
I'm going incognito as well, because I feel like this is probably sensible.
Mate, I've never seen anything like it.
Paige Dumas. Beefcake Paige. This is a good start.
There you go.
Whoa. I've got to leave incognito. Shit, I'm in trouble.
That's how they get you trapped.
I'm confused, man. I don't know what.
So you have to, if I've got the before and after, there's a picture, someone on their profile before and after, and then you just go, bring back, we need to open more asylums, mate. We need to open more asylums.
I mean, I need. I don't know. I'm lost for words here. So this page, right? I don't know how to get the terminology right here. I'm not going to offend an entire group of people, but is Paige Dumas genetically a woman or a man?
Yes.
Okay. Genetically a woman.
Like, literally, I think I describe it as like DIY trans. It's like, I'm not going to go to the doctor, but I've read somewhere that if I take loads of steroids, I'll become a man. I'd quite like to look more masculine, therefore I will take a fair amount of steroids and see where that gets me.
So what's the link between this person and boxing?
Another popular OnlyFans creator. And I'm saying at some point we're going to see a video of her collaborating with a female boxer of some description, right? That's going to leak out at some point. Then Robert Smith's going to have to say, well, she was either licensed or she wasn't.
Robert Smith will do absolutely nothing. Because Robert Smith never does anything at all.
Remember, he doesn't care what the fans think.
Doesn't care what the fans think. And, honestly, like, yeah.
But this is what happens when a sport says anything goes.
Yeah.
Right? Do you remember when Terry Harper was just a girl that used to work in a fish and chip shop, and she had a girlfriend called, I don't know what her name was, Sophie. And Sky would pan to her, the audience was Sophie. And Sophie kind of looked like she was babysitting Terry Harper. Do you know what I mean? Because Terry halftime doesn't look like she knows what day it is, right? And that was quite nice. And Adam Smith would go, oh, isn't that heartwarming? You know? And then you just saw her in the pink hot pants and like the bra top hitting the bag. And you're like, who trains like that? And it was like, oh, for more, hit the link. And I was like, no. You can't sell me the rainbow dream and now be like, guys, I'm here for you. Like, I'm not falling for it.
Yeah,
So I wonder how much money she's making. And also, it doesn't help that good old Steffi Bull got locked up. Yeah, everyone had to go and work. Once Steffi got locked up, everyone had to go and work.
It's so, again, like, this is part of my issue with the sport, is that it won't... Enough people knew what was going on there, right? Enough people knew. In the same way, when Sky Sports broadcast the MTK Golden Contract series, enough people knew. In the same way, they never asked the question, they never referenced it on camera. It was never acknowledged. And now Steffi Bull gets locked up and Terry Harper has changed trainer. In the same way that when a boxer changes trainer, they'll often acknowledge that during the commentary of like a new trainer. Think about how much Bomac gets referenced for a Chris Eubank Jr. fight. The acknowledgement of the change of trainer and maybe the reason and the rationale behind why that boxer changes trainer gets talked about during fight week, during commentary, during analysis. And yet, when that change of trainer is because your trainer has been locked up for cocaine dealing, it doesn't get mentioned during fight week. It doesn't get mentioned during commentary. It doesn't get mentioned during analysis. The sport doesn't deal with its problems. It sweeps it all under the carpet. And I think that's the theme of like what this entire podcast has covered.
Is everyone's just like, whatever it takes to keep the money flowing, we will do. Like, there are no principles. It took the mainstream media going down to like Denby, wherever the gym is, and go, mate, what was Steffi Bull doing? Man, I don't know. Like, I used to come gym, train my fighters, and just go home. Don't know what Steffi was up to. Yeah, but like there were teddy bears and like, you know, like white blocks of look like talcum powder, just little baby powder.
Why did the police turn up there twice during lockdown?
Like, you're asking all these fucking questions, man. What's your problem, pal?
Because the gym was open. Is that the reason why the police turned up there twice? I'd be surprised.
They were training in fucking gym, pal. They came for a workout, pal. What are you talking about?
Professional boxers. We're professionals. We're allowed to be open.
It's a joke. And so it's all of this stuff that's wrong with boxing. You see some of these women looking ripped with six packs. Like, UCAD, are you even testing the women? And it turns out UCAD haven't really been testing female boxers.
No, where's the money going to come from to do it?
So all these women are coming in like stupidly good shape in a way that, for the record, probably isn't healthy for them. Yeah, but someone in the gym said, no, don't worry, you'll be all right. So a lot of them will end their careers and go, I can't have kids. Oh, damn, that's a shame. No one's getting tested, no one's getting caught, but we know that is rampant. Like, the thing is, you can't really mention people till they fail a test. But I have a list of people that when they start failing tests, I'll be like, yep, this is who was giving them the shit. I know exactly who's doing what with who. It's rotten. Yeah, it's not a clean sport in the ring and out the ring. And fans don't care. So there's a recurring theme, like when I do episodes of Porky, and he always talk about boxers over the fans. I'm like, the fans want cartoon characters. They want caricatures. They don't care about the integrity of the sport, because if they did, Conor Benn wouldn't sell a single ticket.
Yep.
But as soon as he was cleared to box, everyone just got back on the Glaze train as to start notching him off.
Well, if they did, well, to be fair, it barely did sell a single ticket. But Tyson Fury and Conor Benn co-headline, like they're the two main events of a show. Okay, so they've both failed drugs tests. Now, I can't say categorically that they've been found guilty of doping because I can't. But they both failed drugs tests. I can state that as fact. One of them...
compounds that are worrying.
One of them is on my list of people to shout out from today as well. So
you shout out my friend Dan. Get up there, my boy.
So you've got those three things through two people, right? And yet they're the ones that are headlining an event at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Now, there weren't that many tickets that got sold. We all know that. We all know that that event got papered throughout the build-up and, like, the fight week. You could buy tickets for a tenner on the resale market. I'm going to take a punt. Those weren't resale tickets.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's if those two are headlining a card, it tells you there's no integrity.
Yeah.
Which is a sad place to be. And maybe that's...
We'll get what we deserve.
It's where the rot set in 10 years ago, maybe. We called it out at the time around certain things. Maybe we weren't vocal enough. I don't know. But that's the position we're in now. And as a result of it, I've lost 75% of interest of where I'm at with the sport.
Mate, I feel you. Because I look around and I go, everything's just garbage. Everything. Like in the old days, you go to amateur shows and they were busy and they were interesting. Now everyone's going through the motions like, yeah, got to put kids out, haven't you? And no one really loves it anymore. No one's stopping off for a quick drink afterwards. None of that stuff happens anymore. So even at the grassroots level, it's tanking. The sport's tanking commercially because people can't afford it. There were times where you could look on BoxRec and there'd be like 8 or 9 shows in the UK on any given night. And then the board put, was it a 10-fight limit?
On your call, yeah.
Was it just your call? Weren't all shows limited?
Nope. Well, they were during lockdown, and then they pulled it after lockdown, but they kept it for your call.
And so it suddenly stops being economic.
Yeah, commercially unviable to do it. But yeah, if you're saying that about the amateur side of it, sort of the small hall side of it, think about the times that you and I would be at York Hall and we'd bump into 20 people, 30 people, 40 people. The place was vibrant and buzzing. And that wasn't just for Goodwin shows. That would be for MTK shows. It would be for whatever other shows were going on at the time, not just at York Hall, but small hall shows around the country. There was a swell of like support for it. That's not there now. It's not there at all.
Man, I'll tell you when I knew the sport was gone. I was like, if Dennis Hobson can't make it work,
yeah,
all the experience and knowledge he's got, if he can't make it work, no one's going to make it work.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. But I still enjoy observing it. I enjoy looking at what happens outside of the ring and like, it's almost that sort of, I'm not invested in it, so I laugh at it more than I don't sit and like tweet about the result and the outcome of a fight. If there's a fun fight that I enjoy, that William Crawler fight last weekend or the weekend before, whatever it was, absolutely wild. I'll sit and enjoy a fight like that, but it's so far removed from where we were 10 years ago.
Do you know what? That touches on an important point. I think one of the things that's killed the sport is everyone with a license thinks they're the main character. So people turn over and they assume they should be the main character. And you're like, no, mate, like in boxing history, there's a headliner and the rest of you just fill the card. Yeah? You're not supposed to be unbeaten if you're like the 4th fight of the night. I don't care if you're unbeaten or not. You know what I mean? You've got to entertain. If you can't entertain, it's a waste of everyone's time.
It's how Sam Egginton made a career of it.
Yeah. I made good money off of it. But I see these guys, if I fight that guy, and I can't risk my O at this level. And you're like, shut up. Do you remember when it was always, oh, do you want to fight so-and-so? Yeah, he's not on my level. I'm too good for him. I'm way past him. But if Turkey wants to put that money up, then I'll fight him. And you're just like, oh my God. And Turkey's just like, who is this guy? How dare he mention my name?
That's the Mark Chamberlain effect.
Which was always weird to me. Why
Do you
was
think he
Mark Chamberlain his favourite fighter?
Do you think he meant Isaac Chamberlain? He was really confused when a white dude turned up.
No, because he said it himself.
So when I was at the fight where he lost to Josh Bradley, wasn't it?
Something sinister about that relationship.
It's so weird. So weird. And then Mark Chamberlain's just back into the...
It had to be, though, right? No, but no one knows who Mark Chamberlain is.
No one knew who he was before. No one knows who he is now. And yet...
For him to be your favourite fighter. And I don't think Turkey's got a deep knowledge of boxing. Where did Mark come from? Did someone have to send him to room 715 and say, just go in there and do what is asked of you?
It's wild.
Is that what happened? Is that when he found out maybe that certain things were more appealing than he thought? Because they've never really brought him back. You've never heard Turkey mention him again.
No, it was just a 6-month period where apparently Mark Chamberlain was his favourite fighter.
Who hasn't had a 6-month relationship? Just saying.
Just a fad. It was a fad. It was a moment.
Fad. The first syllable, we were there.
A fad. Duh.
It's suspicious. But I think there are a lot of boxers that have to get on their knees.
And
we'll never find out who.
Pray.
Yeah, 5 times a day.
To whoever needs praying to.
Listen, man, sometimes
you got to pray hard and deep.
Sometimes, look, there are a lot of people in history that have made good money blowing the horn. Louis Armstrong. Louis done his thing. But how many checks were given for people being Louis Armstrong? Because those cards... those cards never made sense, did they?
No, they didn't.
You'd look at it, you're like, that's not the 5v5 I wanted. Who chose this? Oh, His Excellency chose it. And you're like, really? Okay. On what basis did he choose these? Because I know he don't know jack about boxing.
I can't even remember who fought on those 5v5s. I've no idea.
Everyone come to party, room 715. Just there, mate, getting your hand grabbed and just walk down to the ring as a grown man. As a grown man, like, and you, and you just gotta take it.
It's so mad, isn't it? Like the phases and generations of boxing. We've just chatted through like 10 years of it, but going back that 10-year, as I said earlier, Eye of the Hurricane, and you look at it now objectively, how wild that was. And then it's only a very short period of time ago that Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn were being dog walked to the ring by a small man.
No, but I think Hearn always found a way to slip his hand away. Like, he'd have his hand in his pocket. Like, literally, you'd watch him, he'd have his hands in his pockets and he'd look away, right? Just so he could kind of have the plausible deniability. As soon as he felt a tug on the sleeve, he just go, no, not me. I know what you did in room 715. No.
But again, you sort of go back. Hearn's a brilliant... We said it years ago. He'd be a brilliant politician, I think. He's always been able to keep a distance enough from where the problems lie.
Yeah.
There aren't quotes from him about Daniel Kinahan. He never held the hand of Turkey particularly. He sort of escaped that element of it. He's always just about not sold himself out enough, as you say, to then have that plausible deniability at the end of it.
He's avoided every stain.
Yeah, and I admire that of the man, because there must be stuff that's gone on in the background that has never come to the forefront.
Listen, when you get a fighter to commit the rest of his career to a promotional company, and he can pick and choose who he wants to fight, and you go into bat for him, and you call him your best friend, and all this sort of stuff. I wonder if you have a room 715. And I go, what's really going on? That's what I say. I do. I genuinely go, what is the scandal that would bring him down? Because he works so relentlessly that there's almost like this fear of, I need to escape whatever it is I've done over here. But
Yeah.
he will pay whatever he has to pay to make sure that stuff doesn't get out. Because like I've said, there are fighters on that Matchroom roster whose lives don't make any sense. I'm going to leave it there.
Maybe we should leave it all there too. We're 2 hours 15 in.
Oh, mate, yeah. We don't have the stamina of old, unfortunately.
Nah, man, I've not even got any booze on me tonight. This is...
I've got work tomorrow. See, that's the downside. Now we actually care about work on Mondays.
Yeah, we've grown up. Well, we haven't, evidently, from the last 2.25 hours.
I will say this, though. My last thing is, if you said to me, in the last 10 years, the thing that has lived with me in terms of why did no one ever talk about this? Do you remember Danny Morell?
Yep. The Dave Allen protege.
Do you remember when he brought him down to London?
Yep.
The Rodent had the video footage of all of them in their underpants wrestling in a bed together with Disco Dave. That kid was of an age where if that was your son, you would be livid. Everyone forgot about that. And no one ever asked any questions. That video was out there.
Didn't he turn pro with Matchroom?
Yeah.
Or, I don't know, maybe it wasn't with Matchroom. He turned pro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's he gone?
Yeah.
No one ever talked about that. I remember going, this is going to come back to haunt people.
Yeah, I completely forgot about it until you've just mentioned the kid's name now.
The kid was like in year 10, year 11. I can't remember which year it was. And it was term time. And I'm like, what? Okay, well, if Tebbit wants to sleep on the floor and film this sort of content, who am I to judge?
Hmm.
And on that bombshell, yeah. Now, mate, thanks for joining. We had to do 400 the right way.
It's a pleasure. I'll say thank you on behalf of me and every listener, I'm sure, for putting out 399. And I was saying this to who was I saying it to earlier? Oh, my son. Out of 399, I reckon 390 have been done on your own. Like, that's a remarkable output. So thank you for all the hours you've put into it.
But do you know why that is? Dudes just weren't they weren't pushing it their side. And I was like, hold on. When I was banging the drum and no one else was paying any attention to you, like, where was that loyalty? And then as soon as the glory comes, the energy goes to different people. Then I just said, well, all right, you go and do you, I'll do me. You know, A lot of these guys have a long way to fall when it's all said and done. But I'll always remember who showed loyalty.
Yeah, man. But no, thank you for many hours keeping me accompanied on work trips and walks and such like. It's appreciated.
Nah, thank you, man. Nah, thank you for saying yes 10 years ago.
What a decision.
Mad. That might be one of the maddest stories in boxing. Can we talk to Netflix about that? Like, Netflix, you want to do a documentary? It has to be this.
You want legal cases?
Yeah, legal letters, cases, live shows, people coming after us, promoters crying, all sorts. Road trips.
That'd be fun. That'd be fun.
Nah, brilliant, mate. Thank you.
Pleasure. Anytime.
Take care, mate.
Take care, T.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Happy birthday as well to Rick, big 380. Don't overdo it with that green, Rick. Pop, pop, bang. Nice to see all the chaps back together. What did everybody think about the video? Personally, I thought it was fantastic. Alright, hope you all enjoyed it. Peace out.